So, as I've been going through various institutions, picking out individuals that I think we need to have at the forefront of our minds as we continue to progress through spring practices and inevitably turn our attention to next season, today we're stopping in Norman, and we're not talking about individuals, we're talking about an entire position group. A position group that I feel is on pace for a complete turnaround from what we saw a year ago. And with that in mind, of course, we're talking about the running backs. Before we hop into that, y'all know the drill. I need to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, Y for yes, N for no. Are you excited about the running back depth that Oklahoma has? And then let me know the name you're most intrigued by. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification. As I do constant college football content, we're on our push to 15,000 subscribers, and I'd love to have you a part of this community. And if you enjoyed the content, like and comment down below, as those interactions, though small, are massive to content creators such as myself, and both getting picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. But with all that being said, let's hop right into this, because this is something that I find incredibly intriguing. And when we're talking about the turnaround that I feel that this position group is about to have, we also need to talk about why it's coming to be like that, why it's intriguing, and also why it's such a big deal for the Oklahoma Sooners. And before I can get into any of those 3 points, I first have to paint the picture and take you back a year, something that Oklahoma fans are going to know all too well. At the beginning of last season, Oklahoma came into the season flying high, deservedly so. However, at the point where we already knew that the running back depth was thin, it was intriguing to think about how that was going to affect Oklahoma's offense. And inevitably, once the season started, we were able to pinpoint that Oklahoma wasn't able to run their offense with the confidence that they would have liked because of the lack of running back depth. And that was something that really hampered the Sooners, in my opinion. Eric Gray, a phenomenally talented running back. Many of you know I'm very high on his skill set because we heard DeMarco Murray talk about his versatility and what he brings to the table. Kennedy Brooks had a really solid season, but at the end of the day, you didn't have the depth to be able to comfortably rely on your running backs, because at the point where one of them went down, you were left with one scholarship back, and that really put you in a precarious position, especially at the point where Oklahoma looked like they were set to make it to the Big 12 championship and maybe make a run. You needed those running backs healthy for that time. Fast forward a year, and though Kennedy Brooks is no longer here, Oklahoma's running back depth is in a completely different situation. So there's several different names you can turn to and be excited about. Marcus Major is an individual that so many of you have come to me and told me how excited you are for him. And thus, I'm excited to see what he's able to do. He's a talented running back who, though he wasn't able to participate through the bulk of last season, is a go now and looks to take full advantage of it. I'm really excited to see what he's able to do when he's a more featured back to this offense. An offense that utilizes more running backs, but bookmark that, we're going to come back into it. There's also Eric Gray. I don't need to speak much about Eric Gray. Y'all know how I feel about him. He's incredibly versatile. DeMarco Murray sang his praises consistently last year, and because of that, I think he's someone that will add a lot into Jeff Lebby's offense. Javante Barnes, the true freshman's already been turning heads. Jaden Knowles, a walk-on, but a very talented player. Tawee Walker, another individual Oklahoma got via the transfer portal, who we need to keep an eye on, and then Gavin Sawchuk will be making his presence felt sooner rather than later, inevitably once he gets on campus. So it's intriguing in the sense that now Oklahoma has so many more bodies that they're able to try and utilize and put defenses in a precarious position, whereas last year they were having to play very hesitant to try and not get someone injured. So it's a complete different shift in mentality and what you're able to do. The second massive difference, and why it's so important, is because how Jeff Lebby utilizes the running back position as compared to how Lincoln Riley utilized it. Whenever we're talking about Jeff Lebby and the offensive systems he runs, if we're simply talking about running back usage, in 2021, Jeff Lebby had 4 running backs that all got over 100 plus carries. In 2020, that number was 2, but number 3 had 93 carries and number 4 had 56 carries. So he was very close to having 3 running backs all hit 100 plus carries, and even number 4 was over 50. Why I bring this to you is because Jeff Lebby spreads the ball around. That's what he likes to do. He's going to utilize multiple different running backs and use the stylistic differences that those running backs have present. Remember, I'm always talking stylistic differences, especially when we're talking about wide receivers. Pairing wide receivers that are able to achieve and be good at different things allows them to play off of each other. But at the point where you have an offense where you're running so many different looks, having those stylistic differences in the running back room adds a lot to your offense as well. But how does that compare to Lincoln Riley? Because as I said, just to refresh the numbers, 2021, Jeff Lebby had 4 running backs with over 100 carries. 2020, he had 2 running backs with over 100 carries. The third running back had 93 carries, and number 4 came in with 56 carries. How does that compare to what we saw at Oklahoma under Lincoln Riley? And surprisingly, there's a difference. When I look at what Lincoln Riley did in the rushing game, in 2020, that number was 1 running back over 100 carries, but number 2 had 95. So in fairness, very close to having 2 guys over 100 carries. In 2019, it was 2, with Jalen Hurts leading the pack. If I have to go back to how many years it's been since Lincoln Riley's offense has put together an offensive system that has had 2 running backs go over 1,000 yards plus someone else, it was 2018, in which they had 2 running backs go over 1,000 yards plus Kyler Murray. That's the type of difference we see, and not saying one's better than the other, simply saying that with Jeff Lebby, you need running back depth. That's exactly how he runs his system. So having this depth is not only intriguing because of the staunch difference we saw from last year, it's not only intriguing because of the names present, but it's massively important because of how Jeff Lebby runs his offensive system. And if Jeff Lebby's not able to utilize the run to the degree that he would like, the passing game will suffer. So because of that, having these running backs, the stylistic differences they present, and the number of them you do is of massive importance. Now, this isn't to say that one way is better than another. This is simply looking at the situation as it's being presented and saying, with your new offensive coordinator, what happened last year cannot happen again. You can't be that thin at the running back position. First and foremost, any college in the nation is going to find it very difficult to do what they would really like to do with only 2 scholarship running backs. You're putting yourself in a precarious position, and that wasn't a fault of OU. Extemporaneous factors happened for the Sooners last year that were outside of their control. It's not like they picked to only have 2 scholarship running backs, but inevitably it happened. And so that's why I wanted to pick this position group, because Eric Gray, I think, is in for a big year, especially with how Jeff Lebby runs his offense, because not only is Jeff Lebby getting more running backs touches through the traditional means, he's also implementing running backs more heavily in the passing game at greater numbers. Eric Gray is phenomenal at that, and he will really make a defense pay in the receiving end. And whenever you have a new quarterback, whenever you're trying to break in an offensive system, I've said this ad nauseum, and I asked JD about it whenever we do our videos, and he was saying, yeah, no, that's a huge part of being able to comfortably break in a new system. Great tight end play and great running back play is a quarterback's best friend as they're trying to get acclimated to a new environment. The good news for OU is Dylan Gabriel isn't a freshman, and this is a new environment in terms of location, in terms of setting, and in terms of some of the wrinkles that Jeff Lebby has picked up since they were last acquainted. But he's familiar with Jeff Lebby. He's familiar with the basis of the system Jeff Lebby would like to run, and that does give him a bit of a leg up as compared to how we're previously looking at this. So Oklahoma's running back room as a whole is one that we have got to watch. There's going to be a staunch difference in usage of the running backs. And once again, I'm not saying one way is better than the other. I'm simply saying that when you look at the present circumstances and how they've come together, you would not be able to succeed the way you would like if you didn't have running back depth that mirrored what you have now, which is going to be incredibly important under Jeff Lebby as he likes to spread the ball around. That's going to unlock the passing game. That's going to unlock so many other factors of your offense. So running back depth is going to be of massive importance for the Oklahoma Sooners. I'm really interested to see what Gavin Sawchuk does when he makes his addition into this room. But even more interesting than that to me is your thoughts on the situation. Hop down to the comments. Let me know what you're thinking about this staunch difference in running back depth from a year ago to now. Let me know what you're thinking about the difference in usage between Jeff Lebby and Lincoln Riley at the running back position. And then finally, let me know the name you're most interested in that room. But with all that being said, that's it. See ya.